Namaskar and very good evening to all of you who are joining this live stream from Bloomsbury, India Facebook page. My name is Sambit Pal. I have authored the book Bengal Conundrum, The Rise of the BJP and Future of TMC. And today we are joined by two very distinguished guests, Mr. Tathagata Roy, who was a former governor of Meghalaya and Tripura, and a BJP leader, a veteran politician, an intellectual from Bengal. And we are joined by Dr. Fuad Halim, who is a CPIM leader, and most importantly, he is involved with the health movement in Kolkata. Who is a doctor by profession, but a very dear person to a lot of us, in fact, especially the journalists. So I know that everybody is busy, and we had invited Mr. Kunal Ghosh of TMC as well, who is a former Rajya Sabha member of TMC, and he had been a journalist, but unfortunately, I think he's stuck in an important meeting. In fact, we can see that. Dr. Fuad Halim is also traveling, and everybody is busy at this moment as the election fever is is going up in Bengal. So I know that both of you are traveling. Tathagata Roy is also not in Kolkata at this moment. So let me show this book, and which we consider to be a virtual release. I never wanted it to be virtual, but unfortunately, this is what we have to do in this time of pandemic, I guess. So without talking much on my front, I would like to make it a conversation, make this whole session a conversation between these two guests, and I'll just probably moderate a little. I think both of you have got the book. I don't know whether you could get a chance to go through or have a glimpse of it. Mr. Tathagata Roy, could you go through it a little, and what is your sense that I try to be very objective in a sense in critically evaluating this political development in last few years that we have witnessed in Bengal, and what we are going to witness in next couple of months probably. Tathagata Roy, what's your understanding of this situation, political situation in Bengal? And if you have read the book, if you could give your first impression.
Yes, as I said, it is my habit to skim through the book first and generally get the import of the book. That process I have done. And thereafter, I give the book a thorough reading and then possibly reread certain parts of the book that interest me particularly. So the first stage is I've done skimming, which is a very cursory process from which it is very difficult to form a definitive impression of the book. To the extent I've been able to do so, I would say that you've tried to do a very good job. You have generally been non-partisan, like a journalist ought to be. Certain things, say for instance, you have relied upon the evidence of one Mohesh Da, who's your driver. That is all right, but he can't form a representative sample. But at the end of the day, the conclusions that you have drawn, they are plausible conclusions. I may not agree with all of them, but they are plausible conclusions. And I would congratulate you on the manner in which you have tried to deal with the subject. It's a difficult subject. Just 3 months before the election results will be out, and the people of West Bengal will know by whom and how long they are going to, in what manner they are going to be governed.
Right. Yes, I'll come to you on that part, and would like to know about your views. If I can go to Dr. Fuad Halim, what is your impression?
Yeah. I'd like to congratulate you first at the outset, Sambit, for writing this, what you call your own experience and your own collection of facts on Bengal's conundrum that's evolving. It is evolving. It has not closed itself as yet. And I was speaking to Sudarshan, your camera person, who you have acknowledged in your book, and I mentioned to him, and he was pretty elated that he is being mentioned, and most probably you spoke to him also. And that itself tells you that your commitment to meticulous detail and the people who have stood by you in your profession and the integrity with which you recall them in your book. It's essential to what you call construct the man behind the book also, and that gives a glimpse of who you are while you're actually laying this what you call this history of Bengal to the people. And I have gone through part of the book, and you've paid serious attention to what people have said to you. You've quoted the different leaders, you've quoted different journalists verbatim of that. You've also put together the fact sheets and the data flow charts in your book of there. So your commitment to actually giving your reader a glimpse into everybody who speaks for their political organization is there, and your commitment to facts is also there, and you take the reader through this meandering course of Bengal of approximately, say, about 15 to 20 years. If we look at the span of what you're looking at, you refer to an incident in 2002 in Gorbeta, and subsequent to that, what happened. And well, definitely your milestones that you have represented here. You've spoken of Nandigram, you've spoken of Singur, you've spoken of the seminal election in 2011, the subsequent election that took place in 2014, 2016, and 2019. These are the milestones in this century as far as Bengal politics goes, and you've identified them, you've spoken of them. You've also spoken of the players who were overt in their projections and also covert in their projections. You've spoken of the position of the BJP vis-a-vis the RSS, which was playing a much more background role compared to the overt role played by the BJP. And you've spoken of the weaknesses of the left, and in the chapter that you define in chapter 5 as to how the left, what you call, reduced its, what you call, organizational capacity here in West Bengal. On the other hand, you also speak of the organizational weaknesses of the Trinamool Congress. And interestingly, you speak of the organizational, what we call, weaknesses of the Trinamool Congress when they are in power. So that's an interesting, what you call, conversation that you bring forth, that how the Trinamool party in power actually set up a contradiction between the bureaucracy and administration and the party itself. Think of the district administrative meetings where the how the chief minister admonishes her own elected representatives,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it actually what you call lays the ground for the difference between the administration and the political what you call leadership. So a lot of interesting what you call windows you have opened up in this conversation. Thank you
Yes.
for the book.
Yeah. Thank you for the. I'll come to you, Tathagata. If I can come to you and ask that,
Yes,
I had tried to talk about the rise of BJP in context of, how this opposition space has been created by the politics, governance, and organization of TMC, as well as decline of the left in Bengal. Uh, why do you think, despite Mamata Banerjee trying hard to, concentrate on developmental projects, mostly infrastructural projects, she had a mass appeal, and when she came to power in 2011, she had a huge support. What has changed in last 10 years that, we have seen, this, the West Bengal politics is taking this direction towards right, which is known to be a left citadel as we know it.
see, contrary to popular opinion or a lot of informed opinion, the people of West Bengal are not basically rightist or leftist. A lot of people say that leftism comes almost naturally to Bengalis. It is nothing of the sort. The Bengalis so far have looked at governments and they have decided, but they have taken their own time in looking at them. And there have been some factors which have impeded the process of looking at the governments. Now they had seen a center-right government of Congress from 1947 to 1967, then a period of relative anarchy between 1967 and 72, then a period of Congress rule in 1972 to 1977, then left front rule from 77 till 2011, then Trinamool Congress's rule from 2011 till 2000, this year, 2020. So now what are they left with? The people of the state, in spite of, I would say, a commendable government between 1947 and 1967, in spite of so many odds, particularly arising out of the partition of Bengal and the driving out of Hindus from Pakistan, East Pakistan, the government did a commendable job, I would say, under the circumstances. But the people decided to throw this government out, and a period of, as I said, relative anarchy ensued. This is because after some time the anti-incumbency sets in, and this anti-incumbency is what threw them out. Now, between 1977 and 2011, did not any anti-incumbency set in? It did, of course. But the observations of the people were impeded by certain factors, which would be too voluminous to go into, so I will not go into them. But eventually it is anti-incumbency which threw the left-front government out. And now it is the same anti-incumbency in 2020, which is 2021, which is working against the incumbent government. And apart from that, there are certain factors which I shall try to throw some light on, of course, according to my perception. You see, when in 2011 the party came to power, Trinamool Congress came to power, there used to be hoardings at many street corners which said Shototar Pratimurti, embodiment of honesty, showing Mamata Banerjee in her trademark blue and white sari and her Hawaii slippers. You don't see that. You think you see 10 times the number of Mamata's pictures all over the state nowadays. But you don't see that slogan anymore. Why? Because the Trinamool Congress has very thoroughly managed to sully its own name by total dishonesty and corruption. That corruption has touched Mamata's family even, immediate family. So as a result of that, I mean, as immediate as a spinster can. So that is one thing that has
Right. Corruption has,
hurt
of
the
course,
people.
corruption has,
Apart
of
from
course,
that,
played
there
a
are,
part.
one second, just let me finish.
Yes.
Apart from that, there are other factors like her failure in providing employment to the people, her the very regrettable law and order situation. All these things have had a role to play.
Right. I will come to you, Tathagata. I would like to ask Fuad Halim. Mr. Roy is suggesting that Bengal has never been left in that sense as the popular belief is. Do you really subscribe to that view that Bengal has not been left in that sense, and the sudden surge of this polarized rightist politics in Bengal, that's a kind of natural phenomenon that was probably kept aside by the governance of this leftist party in a sense?
Well, I think so. It's part and parcel of the RSS, what you call think tank, to believe that there is nothing left about Bengal and its historical legacy, which is unfortunate because this is part and parcel of the larger, what you call, project to rewrite India's history. And in for Bengal in particular, they're very uncomfortable with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. In fact, as you know, the Hindu Mahasabha collaborated with the British in 1925 and tried to defeat Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's attempt to become mayor of Calcutta Corporation, and that legacy continues. So that legacy today is a much more molded and a suave way to say that Bengal was never ever leftist. Master Sudra Sen Chittagong Armory case does not find any sort of serious place in the RSS understanding of Bengal politics, because then you'll have to link to the freedom struggle of which the RSS and the Hindu glorious what you call goal to talk about. So that rather erase that part of India's history with reference to Bengal in particular. And I think that explains Tathagata Roy's stand, and my difference with him categorically is there. And you have to understand that the left politics was so deeply ingrained in West Bengal that pre-partition, if you look at the steps taken by the Calcutta Corporation and the provincial governments under British rule in terms of giving people pensions, in terms of giving what you call financial security to government staff, starting off corporation schools in under the Calcutta Corporation, which was not part and parcel of the provincial governments in the other parts of India. That itself tells you that there's a seminal difference between the way Bengal oriented itself even pre-partition, leave alone post-partition, where land reform movement led to the 1967 government, and again the 1969 government, and then the Panchayati Raj being put on in 1997, the left coming to power and reform the free education and all. So, part and parcel of our entire legacy, pre and post, has always been the alternative perspective, a left alternative perspective, not a right alternative perspective. That's well ingrained in West Bengal since time immemorial, I would say. And the RSS and the BJP is uncomfortable with that. But having said that, even if you look at the parliamentary practice, in fact, your book mentions very, very clearly, and I salute your courage, because you've definitely spoken as to how in the left what you call period, defections of MLAs were not tolerated, and people would be expelled from the party, which then became part and parcel of the legacy of the Trinamool Congress. And you
Right. That's
put
that's
the role of the
Dr.
speaker
Fuad
in the
Halim.
bill.
That's more about politicking. That you have seen that in how this politicking, or the way the political parties had applied their politics on the ground, how that has changed. I will come to that. Uh, Mr. Tathagata Roy, I would like to ask that what Fuad Halim is saying, that Bengal had a legacy of leftist ideology or politics, whatever it is, whatever way you call it, has always been there. My question to you is that Bengal was probably the feudal kind of a very ripe ground for rightist politics to grow, especially after independence, or the kind of polarization that we have seen just before independence. We do not talk much about it, but there was this 1946 Great Calcutta killing, and how Bengal was divided on religious line as well. Why did it take for BJP or the rightist politics to grow? Why did it take such a long time to grow what we can see now? What is your explanation? I have tried to explain it in my own way in the book, but what is your explanation?
See, before going into your question, I find it rather amusing that Dr. Fuad Halim, being a communist, is talking about the right being uncomfortable with Netaji on the basis of something which was done regarding the Calcutta Corporation, when Dr. Fuad Halim's predecessors had painted Netaji with the face of a dog, or the face of a donkey being ridden by Tojo. So, question of the rights being uncomfortable with Netaji fades into insignificance with the downright abuse that the communists had heaped on Netaji. Now, having said that, I would not like to debate this question right now, because here we are discussing your book and not the overall political history of West Bengal or its left. See, the reason why to understand your question, why the right did not flourish immediately after the great Calcutta killings and the partition and the exodus or the
Of the
expulsion of
refugees.
Hindus from East Pakistan.
Right.
It did flourish. It did flourish until 1953 when Shama Prasad Mukherjee was the leader of West Bengal. In fact, West Bengal was created by Shama Prasad Mukherjee as a homeland for Bengali Hindus. Jinnah wanted the whole of Bengal and the whole of Assam on the grounds of Muslim majority in undivided Bengal. It is Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee who got the Congress to side with him, and together they got the Bengali Hindus to vote for partition of the state, partition of the province of Bengal, so that Bengali Hindus could have a piece of land which was part of India and where they could hold their heads high as Bengali Hindus. That process continued unimpeded, and until 23rd January 1953, when the dead body of Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee arrived at Kolkata. And, well, I can't vouch for it, but there are good reasons to think, which I would say as the biographer of Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee, that he was murdered through medical negligence. After that, there was no leader. Basically that. After that, there was no leader. There were leaders who had tried very hard, but Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee had not been able to nurture a group of leaders who could take on the baton from him and lead the right. So as a result of that, eventually the right, you must remember that in the 1952 parliamentary elections, the Bharatiya Janasangh got 3 seats from West Bengal, whereas in the subsequent election it got none because there were no leaders. In fact, that is one of the things that applies to the CPIM now, because with the exit of leaders like Jyoti Basu, Subhash Chakraborty, Anil Biswas, Shyamai Chakraborty, there is no leader in that party, and that's why that party has no future in West Bengal. And as I said, by the process of elimination, you are left only with the BJP, with which the people are now prepared to experiment. But to get back to the question, the reason why the right did not flourish was lack of leadership.
Right, but
whereas
why?
The communists, just let me add one thing, whereas the communists had a bevy of leaders, competent leaders, and they took their case forward.
Right, and I think there probably the left politics had flourished, post 60s, and that took different strands, and then we had seen Naxal movement, and then left front had come to power. As BJP as a party, you had been the president of state BJP as well, Mr. Tathagata Roy. Why there was no such kind of movement on the part of BJP to be at least the principal opposition party? Is it because BJP has always been considered as a North Indian party? Is it because of that the focus was always on North India, and people didn't take much interest in eastern part of India, and that has probably changed after?
You were asking.
Yeah, and do you think that that has changed after Amit Shah and Narendra Modi, they have come to power? The focus of BJP has changed. Why BJP didn't flourish much as the main opposition party since 80s? You had Mamata Banerjee as your ally in late 90s, and then in 2000. What was lacking? Is it the central leadership's disinterest in eastern part of India, or is it something else? What's your analysis? You had led the party in the state as well.
2 things. Number one is the lack of leadership, as I pointed out. The second thing was the binary nature of West Bengal politics. West Bengal politics has always been binary ever since 1977. Before that, since 1972. Because before that, there used to be a lot of parties in the fray. There was the Congress, there was the Communists, there were
Biplavi Bangla
the
Congress.
RSP, so many other people, and they used to fight separately. But from 1972, the thing became largely binary. And the third party and the fourth party had no chance, and we were in the position of the third party or fourth party, to which position the Congress and the CPIM have now been relegated. So that is one reason. And the other is, of course, the lack of leadership. As a result of that, we could not flourish. You must remember that is why when in 2002, I became president, in spite of a lot of opposition within the party, I forced the party, so to say, or I took the party into a partnership with the Trinamool Congress, because I could see that if we do not align with the Trinamool Congress, we would be blamed as spoilers, vote katua. And that is one thing, that one epithet that I did not want to be attached to the BJP. So I left it. So I changed course and we aligned with the Trinamool Congress, knowing fully well that this is not going to last, because that is the nature of Mamata Banerjee. It didn't lasted I think until 2007 or 2008. Then she slowly drifted away. She went with the Congress. Then she left the Congress. Now she is a force. She is the first party in her own right, and let's see where she goes now.
Right. Yeah, and I have mentioned this, episode in detail in my book, that, how you had taken your party against a section of your own party who were opposed to alliance with Mamata Banerjee.
That's right.
Mr. Tathagata Roy, if I can ask you that, if I have argued in my book as well, and I argue that, Mamata Banerjee of 2019 June, just after the Lok Sabha election results, it was a kind of debacle for her, it was a disaster for her.
It was a considerable debacle.
But it was also a miracle for BJP as well, because nobody had, or rather few had thought that, they would reach the mark of 18 seats out of 42 Lok Sabha seats.
Do you remember that Amit Shah predicted it?
Yeah, I know. He had set a target of 22 seats for your Bengal leaders. But anyway, I mean, the ground reality didn't. It showed that there was a kind of wave against Mamata Banerjee, but nobody thought that BJP will reach the mark of 18 seats. That
Yes.
What is your prediction of 2021 elections, when Mamata Banerjee has, in a sense, recovered a lot of lost ground that she had lost probably during 2019 Lok Sabha elections? What is your take? Don't you think that BJP is trying to weaken Trinamool Congress by poaching a lot of MLAs, leaders? But Mamata Banerjee is still the must leader that BJP probably doesn't have when they're going for 2019 Lok Sabha, this 2021 Vidhan Sabha elections. So, what is your prediction? What do you think is going to happen despite this situation?
Tell me something, Sambit. Mamata Banerjee has been in politics since the middle 1970s. She has, when she was a young girl, she had been fighting in the Congress against Jayaprakash Narayan. Then in 1984, she defeated the redoubtable Somnath Chatterjee. She became a force in her own right. She competed for the presidency of the West Bengal Congress and was defeated by a rather mean trick. Then she, in 1997, she broke away from the Congress, formed her own party, and then after that, it has only been a road going north. During all these years, did she need the help of any kind of Prashant Kishore or any electoral advisor from outside? She did not. Her political instincts stood her in good stead. She knew that she knew the state, and then she would know what exactly would drive these people. Today, she is unsure of herself, which is why she has allegedly spent some 500 crores of rupees to bring in this Prashanta Kishore and get advice like Didi Ke Bolo and Duare Sarkar and all this stuff.
Tathagata, if I can interrupt you a little, and that was probably needed because she is not, fighting any other party, but a very organized, regimented party like BJP, and that draws a lot of training from RSS as well, as far as the organization is concerned. So, don't you think that that was probably required? That she needed some professional help to organize her party and have a direction. So there shouldn't be anything wrong with that, isn't it?
You think CPIM is less organized than the BJP? Or in the first decade of 2000, the new century, the CPIM was any less organized than the BJP is today? I would say any day CPM was better organized, CPM was a better regimented party. The orders that were given, they follow the principle of democratic social centralism, as a result of which an order that generated from the effects of the party traveled down seamlessly all the way down to the lowest levels. In spite of that, she did not need any Prashant Kishore. She needs Prashant Kishore now because she knows that her popularity has waned away. Her popularity is worn out. She needs some new tricks. To learn these new tricks, she had brought in Prashant Kishore. And Prashant Kishore has been largely a failure. So she is now she has jettisoned Prashant Kishore for all practical purposes. She probably will try to get her money's worth, but she has jettisoned him for all practical purposes. What she is doing now is by random doling, random sending out of doles, without any regard to where she'll get the money from, and trying to impress the people. But the people are not fools. And they also ask this question, where are you going to get the money from for all these schemes? Are these schemes going to be continued beyond election? All these questions people are asking. And the vibrations that she is getting from the ground are not very happy for her. She is a bundle of nerves that you can make out nowadays. She even goes to the extent of, in North Bengal, she went to the extent of saying that I have no shame. She said that I have gohara here gechi, kintu amar lajja nei. I have been thoroughly defeated, but I have no shame. Now, when would a politician say such a thing? Only when her back is to the wall.
Yeah, but she has probably admitted the reality. I mean, whatever was the reality that she was admitting, probably.
But admission will not help. Admission, if I have a disease and they admit the disease is there, I may call for the correct doctor, but just admission will not help me cure my disease.
Right. I think Fuad Halim is back with us,
but you will have to excuse me now. I can't carry on much further.
Just 2 minutes, Tathagata Roy. I'll ask one question to Fuad Halim, then I'll come to you and we'll conclude this. Fuad Halim, what do you think in this election? This Congress and left, they are coming together. And if they can, snatch or rather recover their lost, vote that they had lost in 2019 Lok Sabha elections, will that change the whole game in West Bengal politics and, break that binary that we are having between BJP and, TMC?
Well, the binary of the BJP and TMC is actually a constructed binary, because if you look at the policies that are being implemented by the Trinamool Congress or the BJP, both of them are basically the same. The human resource that the Trinamool and the BJP are sharing is also the same pool of leadership. So there is actually no real binary, it's a constructed binary. Those people who are there in the Trinamool Congress, one cannot say with confidence that tomorrow they are going to be with the TMC. Vice versa, there are a lot of leaders from the BJP who are going back to the TMC also. So this entire situation, that there's a bit of a constructed binary. As far as the people of West Bengal are concerned, they are definitely interested in trying to see as to what they can get in terms of a better future. if you look at this Trinamool and BJP conversation that's going on in the garb of a binary, there is no commitment to jobs. There is no commitment to bringing back to Bengal investment that is going to develop what you call industry here in West Bengal. There is no conversation over here in terms of how our educational institutions are going to get staffed. That is the question of regularly holding the examinations for recruiting teachers. These conversations are not there in this constructed binary. So on the question of what you call agricultural, remuneration in terms of what farmers are producing for their crops, those questions are not central to either the TMC or the Bharatiya Janata Party over here. So in this constructed binary, the core questions are not being addressed. And definitely the people of Bengal, especially given the situation that is engulfed the nation, especially the farmers' movement in Delhi, we are seeing the redefining of the Indian polity. The Indian polity is no more interested in the general slogans, whether it be religious, whether it be of a nationalistic content or any other thing. They're more interested to see that their issues are being addressed or not. And the same thing is happening here in Bengal. And the people in Bengal definitely want concrete answers. And the left and the Congress is the only alternative here in Bengal that is addressing these issues. We have said categorically that the 5.5 lakh vacant government jobs will be filled up in our tenure. We are categorically saying that every year the examinations for the teachers, that is the TET and the para teachers and everything, will be conducted meticulously for the madrasa teachers, madrasa boards. It will be held meticulously, and those posts will be filled up. On the question of the farmers' question, the MSP, we are supporting it, the All India movement, we are leading that All India movement at this point of time. So on all these questions which are concrete, we are saying that this is our alternative, and the people of West Bengal are invited to respond to that. And that is what we look forward to in the coming days and the 2021 election.
Yeah, but yes, I understand. The conversation has of course changed, and this is a binary that is being built here. But the organization is also very important, Dr. Fuad Halim, and that is where probably the left is lacking. Tathagata Roy, one last question to you. That there is often asked question that we face now, that who is the face of BJP's chief ministerial candidate? Who is going to be the chief ministerial candidate for 2021 elections? Are you in the fray, or do you?
First thing, the question does not arise, and I don't understand why this question is asked, because the party has very categorically said that it will not declare the chief ministerial face before the elections. It has categorically said it, and it is nothing new. The party did not declare the leader in UP before the elections. It did not do so in Haryana before the elections. It did not do so.
Will it damage the electoral chances of BJP if they do not go with a face against Mamata Banerjee?
No. Mamata Banerjee is a discredited face. Mamata Banerjee is a discredited face. And the rest of what Dr. Fuad Halim has been saying is a lot of hoping against hope. Particularly the coalition of Congress and CPIM, a party which had bribed the Congress in the right through the 1980s, and the first half of the 1990s, as a result of which Mamata broke away from the Congress. That party forming a coalition with the electoral understanding with the Congress, and then happily hoping and telling people that they are the real alternative to Mamata Banerjee. This is just a lot of baloney. People are these parties have been tried and tested.
But nothing is impossible in politics, isn't it? Like you had, held the hands of Mamata Banerjee in the early 2000s,
tomorrow SUCI may come to power.
Okay,
Yes,
we'll wait
nothing
and
is
see.
impossible in politics, but you'll have to excuse me now, okay?
Yes, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining me.
very
Yeah,
much.
I'll just conclude that by saying that the conversation in West Bengal politics has really changed in last 1 decade, and that is what I attempted to write in my book. That how the issues of economic rights and social justice have transformed into identity politics in Bengal, and we'll have to wait and see
That is
what
right.
happens.
That is the point that you have emphasized, and I congratulate you on it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and that is
Thank
what probably the book says, and people can see it. Thank you so much, Dr. Fuad Halim. Thank you so much, Dr. Mr. Tathagata Roy, and thank you all who have joined this live stream and watched this live stream. And I hope that you will read this book, Bengal Conundrum: The Rise of the BJP and the Future of TMC, and will know in what context West Bengal is going for the polls in 2021 in next couple of months. So thank you very much. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
you. Good night.